All right, thank you, Chairman, and welcome to our guest today. I want to probably focus on trade for the first half. And the tariffs get all the ink, but the non-tariff barriers is my biggest concern when it comes to agriculture. And we just want to ask some questions regarding how do our grain standards help protect us from non-tariff barriers, and or do you have examples when you feel like other countries have used that against us one way or another, that they're not accepting our grading system? So maybe Ms. Mickish, you would mind starting if you have a thought?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, from what I see in my perspective with an official grain inspection is if there are complaints overseas about any shipments of grain, it's wonderful having the FGIS and USDA backing on that. FGIS has individuals that can work through that, and since everything that we do, the paper we write on, the certificates we do, is all considered federal property. And so as those questions come through, we're able to kind of go backwards and see down to exactly when a stowage exam of looking inside a container was done and what was found during that. And I think that that is something that has been very beneficial for our trading partners across the seas, that they know that they can figure out what is going on, and it's a little more difficult for that to be used when we have very good records of what happened for those shipments.
So despite that, are there examples, though, when they ignore our grading system and reject our grains?
That's something that I don't have expertise in. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Whip, any comments?
I had heard conversations about sometimes a foreign buyer might have become accustomed to getting maybe a little bit better than what the grade actually is, and then if you ever deliver at the grade, then they feel they have a complaint. Mm-hmm. So you say, well, okay, what were you looking for? Let's work through this, and they describe what they wanted, and you say, well, you just described number 1 corn, and you paid for number 2 corn. So it's very nice to have this grading system to fall back on and say, you want better? We have better. Let's have that conversation, and it's just that level playing field and that kind of good fences make good neighbors sort of rules that we can all agree on.
Okay. Mr. Flyant, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would make the case, and I, through my career, I've dealt with non-tariff trade barriers. We make the case that's why we have the U.S. grain standards, right? The U.S. grain standards help address some of those concerns, whether it's damage or insects or other quality factors. That's why we have them. And I think Ms. McKesh made a great point. We've got that backing. If there is a complaint from a foreign buyer, there's an official process. FGIS gets involved, and they relook at the sample and provide an official report or a formal report. And in my experience, almost every single time we prove that we loaded what we said we were going to load, and the quality met what the buyer was expecting to get.
Okay. With the time I have remaining, I want to kind of put on my MAHA hat here and give you all a chance to brag too. I think there's a misconception out there that we're not testing grain, that we're not testing what we milled for pesticides. Let's maybe focus on pesticides for a second. I think that's the biggest concerns. Just describe what we're doing and what those standards look like. What type of reassurance would you give my daughter, the mother of my 2 grandsons, that American grain is safe? And maybe go in reverse order. Mr. Bryant, go first, perhaps.
Sure, and I would start with, I eat the products made out of the grain. I'm happy to feed them to my family, and my daughter's here today without.
So far, so good?
Yeah, and I think so. We have a really strong system here, right? EPA regulates, FDA enforces, and we have strong programs to ensure that proper residue limits are set and they're monitored, and we don't see those in our supply chain.
Okay. Mr. Whip.
Yes. So my role as the farmer is really to understand the pesticide labels, make sure that I'm applying those right, and then to every extent that I can, invest in the latest technology so that I'm able to apply timely and properly. And as long as I'm doing that, that's kind of the last stage I have in it. But I stand behind every bushel that I produce.
Then you take it to the elevator. I'm going to say elevator. Maybe you take it different places, and the grain is tested there for residues.
I don't believe each load. I'm not really sure at what point that happens. The ticket I get when I dump a truck of grain, mainly deals with moisture, maybe protein content, mainly things that deal with, will this grain spoil too quickly, or will it stay in condition until it gets to the end customer?
Right.
Perhaps there's somebody better than me to address your question.
Thank you for that question. That's something that I'm very passionate about as far as making sure that the quality of our grain is there. Some of the factors that we look for that are important in respect to what you're discussing is mycotoxins. So making sure that corn doesn't have aflatoxin or vomitoxin in it, or our wheat doesn't have ergot or vomitoxin, or many other factors where they are safety factors to make sure that either the end consumer, whether that is a human or a cattle, or is going to be okay and be healthy through that. I think that one of the things that I see is that, I spoke a little bit in my testimony that exports are mandated to have quality inspection, but nothing domestically is. And so our entire official agency is done on mainly permissive work. And so even though it isn't mandated under the Grain Standards Act that the grain at an elevator in Castleton, North Dakota is done, the whole entire system finds that essentially mandatory in their own right. And so the buyers will require the sellers to provide them with heavy testing. We have grades on every single rail car that go out that show those different damages that can be very toxic. Some of them can be, but then also doing mycotoxins on every rail car. And I think that shows the commitment to safety in the industry.
Are you testing for pesticides as well?
We are not testing for pesticides. That does go to a different level. Grain inspections, we do more of the quicker analysis that they can do to buy and sell, but I know that FGIS does pesticide residue testing as well as other private agencies.
Okay, all right. Mr. Freon, you want to add something? Nope, okay. Thank you so much, Chairman.